So every year up here in Northeast Florida, we have the Shrimp Festival. And it's around May, and it's something that I go to every year, and it's just a nice little time. There's food and drinks and lots of antique vendors and cool art vendors, and it's an interesting thing to do, and it's a fun thing that I enjoy doing with my family. Well, this year, I got, and let me tell you how. So, walking around the antique area, there's this guy that has this little bin of, or a booklet of a bunch of knives kind of clipped into some various little straps. And yeah, some interesting stuff, some cool stuff I've never seen before, some older spydercos, some when they were still had the plastic tips, or not plastic tip, plastic clip, some early generation of like a Merlin, he had some old Andellas, some of the full serrated rescue ones. He had some interesting stuff, and he had a little Protec, little interesting locking mechanism on one that I've never seen before, but he had some interesting stuff. And I saw this Delica here, and I saw it for $65, and I was thinking, wow, that's a good price for what looks like a pretty fresh looking Delica. Now, I'll mind you, some pirates punches had been had. One of the themes at the Shrimp Festival is pirate stuff, so the pirate themed drinks were there, and I had partaken, and maybe I had some rose colored glasses going into this. So I see this Delica he has listed for $65, and of course I immediately, oh well, $65, that's half the price. What could be wrong with it? And it upon feeling it, it feels a little mushy. It felt like it had been disassembled incorrectly, and that little nub that holds the backspacer in place that the spring acts against, that felt like it had been smushed, like many of them do. I've felt Delicas with this same action before, where it doesn't have the most springy, snappy action because that happens. And I'm like, well, that's very likely that could be a case. And then something else got my attention. There is no maker's mark here. So I was like, okay, well, let me see if I can find if they've ever done one of these that don't have the maker's mark. So I pull up the pictures on Blade HQ of the Delicas, and I see this almost exact same one. I think it's the exact same one, and I see there's no maker's mark there. It's like, okay, well, that could be the case. This guy has some interesting other stuff, and I had a little too much faith in humanity, so I offer him $50 for it, and I figure, okay, $50. It's gonna suck if it's fake, but it's nothing at the time. I didn't think that it was. I saw the picture, that was good enough for me. And I don't have any just plain bladed Delicas like this. I have a plain one that's coated. I have the one that's laminated with the Hat 40. I have Warncliffs. I have ones that I've modded. So it's like, I don't see a whole lot of just plain Jane Delicas like this. And I've seen them inside and out so much. And, I think right now I'm just trying to make excuses for myself. But no, I was a fool. I was excited, and I was a fool. So I bought them. I paid the $50 for it happily. Get home, take it apart. It's definitely fake. It's definitely fake. So let's get into it. One of the things that I probably could have and should have looked at right away that I would have noticed, the triangle within the spider's kind of mouth face area. So we can see here that it is much smaller. It is much smaller, and it is much larger there. That's one of the big dead giveaways. The way that this kind of end of the ricasso round is a little more rounded, and you can see this one kind of comes to a point. That should have been a dead giveaway. The maker's mark, I'm still back and forth on that. I saw on the Blade HQ website, there's one without the maker's mark. The action should have been more of a dead giveaway than it was. I think I was thinking, oh, there's something wrong with it. I could throw a titanium backspacer in there, and it'll fix that right up. It's a thing that I've had to do on Delicas before, where I'll get one in that's used, and it's got that mushy action. It's like, I recognize that. I think I can fix that. Now, the up-down is there's a slight play. Like, there's a little bit of play in it, but the way that the action, like, the blade isn't tight, like it's been over tightened, but it doesn't want to overcome this lock bar. Like it won't drop past the lock bar. You have to force it past, and it pushes up on that lock bar just a little bit. That should have been a dead giveaway. A Delica might not always be drop shutting. You know, it has time to break in, but when you fully engage that lock bar, if that pivot and this second body screw right here is loose enough, it should fall shut. And even when they're backed out and all the way loose on these, it doesn't fall shut. It stops right there. That should be a dead giveaway. There's no tolerance in there that would allow it to clear that. Like it's not a Spyderco. You know, a Spyderco, if you loosen it up, it should be able to fall past that lock, but it doesn't. It stops right there. You got to push it back, and now it's free. You know, if I had some, you know, torque spits on me there, I probably would have fiddled with it a little bit if he would have let me. He may not have let me. And, you know, I asked if he had a box or anything like that, and he didn't. He said he bought it without it. So for all I know, he might have just got scammed as well, or maybe he fully knew and, you know, took advantage of someone who had a little bit too much faith. But that happens, don't we? So now I get to tell you and share it with you and let you know, you don't be a fool. Don't be fooled by this kind of thing. The signs were there, but if you refuse to see them like I did, if you get a little too excited for a good deal, then, well, you might be blind to those signs, because I tell you, I think I sure was. Also, these had, when I pulled it open, I already went in and took them out, but there was Teflon washers in there along with the phosphor bronze. So it's like, oh no, never have seen that before. So the internals, you know, and I noticed the nub on the backspacer, this is the nub I was referring to, was not smushed. So I was like, oh, so why is the action so mushy in it? Well, it's just because it's not a real Spyderco. It's not a good spring. That's just the way that it is, and that's the way I'm gonna have to live with it. But what's gonna happen with this one? So we can compare the Seki Cities on there too real quick, so we can see that it is not super obviously different. Like this one might be a little more off to the right, the fake, you know, not at the exact same spot. The Spyderco VG10, where the Spyderco is, you can see that is. It's a little higher, but it's, you know, one of those things. I didn't have a Delica on me. The one picture I pulled up, I just paid attention to the one thing that I wanted to pay attention to. I saw that there was a picture without a maker's mark. So this was going to just be a mod. Oh, another thing, the direction that the pivot is captive, I believe on Spydercos, they're always facing towards the direction that the blade faces when it's open, like it's facing to the right in this orientation. This one's facing up. That was the first thing I noticed when I pulled it apart and I saw that facing up. It's like, oh no. So I don't know if there are any Delicas out there or any older ones that are like that, but this one sure is. But otherwise, you know, it's got the Delica 4 and the FRN. It's, you know, people like you and me, well, obviously not me, but, you know, we may see it, you know, but for the person just getting into Spyderco, or for the person who just knows they're a good brand but doesn't know these little details like this, I didn't even know that fake Delicas were that much of a thing. You know, I should have, but, you know, for other people, don't make that mistake. You know, do your due diligence. Maybe don't buy from the antique guy at the shrimp festival kind of thing. But I really have been wanting to, this was going to be a knife I modded anyway, but I really wanted to do some rock texturing across the spine. And, you know, I have some old, like annealed 1095, but I really want to kind of test it on the spine of a knife to see how it looks. So this, at the end of the day, is going to be a perfect contender for that. So I'll do a little video, mod this one out with the rock spine stone washer just to see how it looks. And then I'll probably just like chop it up with some like tin snips or something like that, like through the handle, throw this thing into the fire, forget about the mistake that I ever made with it. But anyway, don't make the same mistake that I did. Thank you for watching.